All right, you gotta bear with me a second here. This is a new computer and I'm not really the computer literate person. Okay, welcome to all of you. And I want to tell you that with anything of this size and magnitude, it takes a lot of planning to put it together. And it really started about 2.5 to 3 months ago that started working on this. The partners would like to thank all of the people who showed up to participate in this, and the sponsors. And the sponsors are Samaritan Services, Security Patrol, and the Sun City Center Emergency Squad. We'd like to thank specifically we'd like to thank M&M Printing. They especially did the design cover for the brochure that you've seen and the folder that come out that was in the paper. They did the design element for that, didn't charge us anything for it, they just did it, which we want to thank them for that. The Observer, they ran the article for us at a very reduced cost, and we think that's a real nice thing for the community. Vesta, who is put on with the coffee and the cookies today, arranged the room. That permit has been really helpful in everything considered to do this event this morning. And they've also given away 2 show tickets. Don't ask me, my memory isn't as good as it used to be of what the show is, but I have the tickets, and before we give them away, we'll tell you what the show is. Every one of you got a ticket when you came in, so everybody's eligible. First Service did a lot of the work on getting this out to the community for this event, and made sure it was knowledgeable for everybody, and we're appreciative of them. The COA has even ordered some flashlights for everybody to get so that you can do it in disaster. You have a little battery operated flashlight. I want to thank them for their help in all of this as well. They're very good for the community, and they've always been there ready to help in any way they could for us. Community Association, although you don't see it here because it is the Sun City counterpart, both of them need to work in tandem because we are a community. And you will find out if you ever go through a disaster, the borders here of where Kings Point ends and Sun City begins isn't going to be as clear as it is now. It's going to be everybody trying to help each other in this community. And that's what we want to try and foster, is working together. All of the partners agree that this is one giant community. Helping Hands. Helping Hands is a relatively new organization coming to help people move from seniors. They're also going to give out a couple of radios today in a raffle for emergencies. The Men's Club, and they're going to give out radios. And they do a lot of stuff, especially with Lifeline. And after this is all over, you're going to see the tables, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. Service Master, they printed one of these brochures, which has a lot of work that's done in it, about 12 pages of different articles and things for you to do, websites for you to go on and check out for a disaster. So they printed those in color for you. And all the speakers. A lot of people come from a lot of different places with this. The guy that's going to talk about insurance came all the way from West Palm Beach. And he is currently our insurance of record. He is our agent. And also we have the insurance company that actually covers all of Kings Point here today. He drove over from Clearwater because he wanted to see Rob Munns. We're very appreciative they took time to come and see what was going on. And then the committee. These are people that continued working many hours for this project, beyond what you would see. Marianne Meeker, Eileen Tico, Julie Floyd, Bob Preston, Matt Permuth. These are core people that work tirelessly to make sure all this came off, and really appreciative that we have these people in the community to do this. This is how we're going to proceed. We want to make sure that nobody gets bored in here. So all presenters have told you that they're going to keep their speech to under 5 minutes. And just to make sure that that is kept, normally here we know this is a cane, but this is also my tool to help them get off the stage when it's appropriate. They've also been told that this is for owners, things you need to do, not just to get up here and give you a lecture about a disaster and how things come, but what you need to do prepared before the storm, during the storm, and after the storm. And there are some basic things that you need to know that can help you be better prepared. After we've completed with all of this going on the dais, what we're going to do is we have some raffle tickets that I told you we're going to raffle things off. All you need to do is have that little ticket and you're going to be able to get it. But then we have tables and they have brought stuff to give away. And brochures, stuff like that. And you can go to the tables. But you'll be able to also ask the individual presenters if you have a question that specified that, you know, piqued your interest when they were giving their presentation. Everyone understand that? And I think that will be done in about an hour here. So then you'll be able to roam around and go home or on about your life. I wanted to make sure, especially in Kings Point here, we didn't interfere with happy hour. So with that, I'm going to start off with the first presenter, is Jeff Murray from the Sheriff's Department.
Good morning. I know that most people associate Sheriff's Office with traffic, but we're going to talk about kind of what we do in a disaster. But first I wanted to tell you just a little story about some traffic enforcement. So the other day I was on I-75 going home, and one of my residents, one of my seniors, flies by me. I'm going 70, right? I do the speed limit going home. Yeah, believe that. It was a red Corvette, and it was one of my residents. He goes, boom, and I was like, wow, I'm gonna go pull him over. And I needed some overtime money. So I go and I get behind them, turn my lights on, they go faster. I was like, what are you doing? And even faster. And I'm looking and I'm like, we're going like 100 miles an hour. And finally they pull over and stop. And I'm like, that's the oddest thing in the world. So I go up to the car and the guy looks at me and I'm like, what are you doing? And he said, well, years ago, my wife ran off with a deputy and I thought you were bringing her back. All right, so, you like that one? So, all right, so the big thing is, how do you prepare and how do you do your house and how do you do your residence? Well, I'm going to tell you, number one, Deputy Mary is not going to be able to come out and hang up all of your hurricane shutters. Deputy Mary is not going to be able to come out and help you hurricane-proof your house or storm-proof your house. What we, the Sheriff's Office, is what we're going to do in any disaster is we're going to make the scene or the area safe. That is going to be priority number one. So different calls that come in are probably going to be lower in what we call our queue or in our response priority. So welfare checks. If your family calls from out of town and says, hey, will you go check on my aunt or my cousin or my mom or my dad, those things are going to fall way down on our priority list. We're going to clean up all the streets. We're going to make the scene safe. We're going to take care of, you know, if there's any looting that happens to come with a disaster. I know the last two incidents that we've had, the biggest things that we did was remove trees from the roadway. The last two hurricanes that we had, there was trees down on 674, 672, and 301, and we spent 2 days doing nothing but cutting the trees up so that everybody can get places. Now, with that, I do want to mention that at sustained winds of 35 miles an hour or more, no emergency services, no matter the priority, will be able to respond or are going to respond to your house. Okay? At 35 miles an hour. The ambulances don't go out, fire rescue doesn't go out, sheriff's office does not go out. So you, whatever your plan is, and the biggest thing for any disaster is to have a plan in your mind. Think about it, execute it. That way you do something versus just standing there and doing nothing. But at 35 miles an hour, anything that occurs, it's on you. You've got to handle until those winds subside. right? And that's because we're not going to put our people in danger coming to you, and now we have two different sets in danger. So if you've got medical issues, if you've got other things that you may have to deal with during that time, be prepared for those. Put that together, understand that, right? Because there are people that still call 911, and our comm center will tell you, until the winds die down, we are not able to come out. And then we're going to prioritize them based on what type of call. And that's again where we get in, after any storm, we get inundated with welfare checks. And we don't get to them at first, because then again, that's a low priority call. Okay, we're going to go to anybody who's hurt, anybody who's injured, anybody that needs medical attention, any crimes in progress. Those are the type of things that we're going to go to first and foremost. Welfare checks are definitely going to be down the line. So for any disaster though, know that the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, we actually go to the Community Association campus. Our District 4 office over here next to Big Lots is in a flood zone because it's cheap land and we're the government. So we vacate District 4, we go over to the Community Association office just north of Walgreens, and we basically take that over. And their radio club has our backup comms so that we can go to and from, and that's our quote-unquote base. That's where we go, that's where we will respond out of, that's where we hunker down for the storms. And we have the radios, and we have somebody, a delegate from pretty much every agency here in that command over on North Pebble Beach. So any calls that come in to anybody will be able to get the right people, the right places, and the right things to those calls. All right. Thank you, Mike.
Next, Tyler Fleming from NOAA.
Well, good morning. I'm going to talk about briefly the weather disaster I think is probably most on everyone's mind here in Florida, and that's hurricanes. Next slide. I want you to briefly think about, if you just imagine in your head, what do you think, what do you visualize when you think about weather disaster? I'm guessing most of you are picturing wind damage, but in actuality, about 9 out of every 10 weather fatalities in the U.S. From hurricanes and tropical storms are from one way or another water. And the biggest one, about half the fatalities, is storm surge. Here in Sun City Center, that's not really an issue. But the next biggest is flooding rains. It's about a quarter of the fatalities, and that is an issue anywhere in Florida. Then wind is actually third, with about 8% of the fatalities. The reason water is so dangerous, or one of the reasons, is because people drive around their cars. A lot of times after the hurricanes pass, the winds have died down, the sun comes out the next day, but the water remains. So people drive around, they drive their vehicles into floodwaters, and that quickly turns into a dangerous situation. So on the left here, this is from Hurricane Matthew in North Carolina. What happened was the water flooded a road and actually washed the road away. There was a creek that went under the road. The waters got so high that this car, probably the floodwaters were still there. It just looked like there was maybe a couple inches of water on the road. So this driver drove into the floodwaters, not realizing that the road was gone. That driver was lucky to survive, but you can see how that can quickly turn deadly. Right here, this was from Tropical Storm Debbie here locally, just next door in Pinellas County. Widespread flooding, and a lot of drivers, when the water is covering the roads, it gets murky, you can't see the stripes on the edge of the lane. So people lose track of where their lane is and end up in the retention ditches on the side. If the water is moving at all, it only takes about a foot of moving water to lift a car up off their wheels and pull them into the ditch. Unfortunately, that's one of the big killers with hurricanes or flooding. More recently, if you were here for Hurricane Irma in 2017, the entire state, or at least the Florida Peninsula, saw at least 6 inches of rain. Some areas saw as much as 21 inches of rain up in northeast Florida. So even off the roads, this can cause some flooding that gets into homes. This is why it's so important to have your emergency kits ready, because you could be, if you're riding out the storm in your home, you could be stuck there for a while when those flood waters rise up. So you want to make sure you have clean water and food to ride you through the storm. Even more recently, Hurricane Matthew, just a couple years ago, hit the Florida Panhandle. And there was two big things that were dangerous about that. The first was storm surge for the people in Mexico Beach, mostly. Obviously, again, that's not an issue here in Sun City Center, but wind was a big issue with that. So remember, that's the third biggest killer from hurricanes is the wind damage. It was about 160 miles per hour along the coast. But the Category 3 level winds made it all the way into southeast Georgia, which is at 115 miles per hour. The 100-mile-an-hour winds made it about 90 miles inland, which you think about the Florida Peninsula, there's no point in the Florida Peninsula that's 90 miles from the coast. So the right storm coming from the right angle could do 100-mile-an-hour winds anywhere in Florida. So it's something to be aware of, that no place is really safe from hurricanes if you're in Florida. So the wind damage was very destructive with Matthew. It's not just the wind itself, but the water in the wind adds to the momentum of that force, and that takes out windows, does a lot of damage to houses and trees. Next slide. To this day, if you drive along Interstate 10 between Tallahassee and Mobile, you can still see the damage. That just thousands and thousands of trees down. You can actually tell if you drive like east to west where the center came, because on the east side all the storms are laying down towards the north. On the west side they're all laying down to the south, just because of the way the hurricane spins. That damage will be visible for years to come. And the last thing I want to mention is when you hear about hurricane forecasts, the important thing is don't focus on the category. We hear a lot of people say, oh, we're not going to evacuate, or we're not going to put up shutters because it's just a Category 1 storm. But since 2010, Category 1 hurricanes have caused 175 fatalities and done over $100 million in damage. You'll hear with the forecast, sometimes they focus on storm surge as a big issue, or maybe flooding range like Hurricane Harvey in Texas. So listen to what is forecasted to happen for your area when you make your decisions of if you're going to stay here or if you're going to evacuate or put up shutters. So, thank you.
Good.
Next will be Hillsborough County Fire Rescue and EOC, which is the Emergency Operations Center.
Good morning. I have to tell you, I'm a bit nervous with Mike's new tool sitting right next to me, so I'll be brief. But my name is Jerry Stickney. I work for Hillsborough County Fire Rescue in their Office of Emergency Management. It's a mouthful, but essentially what we do, we work with emergency management and we help coordinate between different agencies, different departments, really trying to where we can fill the gaps and connect the dots. That's really what the role of our office is. And all of that is to help the community be aware and, as it was mentioned earlier, have a plan. Take care, because at some point, you 35-mile-an-hour winds, we stop. It's up to you having a plan. And with that, I want to talk about shelters briefly. And having a plan is huge. So I have some handouts in the back, right in the back corner. After this, talks about your plan, what you can do to create your plan, and your disaster kit. I think the biggest thing to think about is not every kit is created equal. Everyone has their own specific needs, from dietary restrictions, medications, for different family members you may be taking care of, your pets, so many different options and things you've got to think about. And this handout is a very good, walks you through a lot of different aspects that you can think about to go into your kit. Now, in regards to the shelters in this county, we have 45 shelters throughout the entire county. And with that, I want to preface these shelters. I like to think of them as a lifeboat, not a cruise ship. So it's very last resort, and it's not always what you think it is. So with our shelters, at your general population shelters, you're going to be allotted 20 square feet. And that is your 20 square feet to see what you do fit with it, and that is not a lot of space. So really thinking about that, and we will provide food and water for you, but as well, back to the lifeboat thing, it's probably not the food that you want to eat or like to eat. So that's what this kit talks about, is having those specific food, those specific things that really cater to your needs. And I think you know yourself, you know, if you have that special treat or anything like that, that's a big thing to talk about and to think of. And regarding our pets, I have a dog, and he is my favorite person in the world. He's my little fur baby, as my wife calls it. And I still feel weird saying fur baby, but that's her term, and it sticks with me. So, but as that, when we look at that, our pet shelters, I think as we talk about this, the expectations of what that is, we have 8 pet-friendly shelters throughout the county. And in those pet-friendly shelters, it's not just drop your pets off and we'll take care of them all. There's some expectations on both ends. And some ones I want to touch on briefly is when you come to that pet-friendly shelter, you're going to need to provide current paperwork on any shots or licenses you have with that animal. It has to be on a leash or in a carrier. And it's also expected that you provide a crate for your animal as well while you're there. And I think the biggest thing that we kind of overlook is that your animal will be in a specific area, so they will not be cohabitated with you while you're in that shelter. And you'll also be expected to take care of your animal. So there'll be times throughout the day to where you can go and walk them, feed them, but then they go back in their area and you'll be back with the general population. So I think that's one thing that's kind of overlooked and not discussed. And to help with some of that, you know, you have your Go kit for you, and you also have a kit for your animal. So with the handouts as well, I have this little flashcard for hurricane preparation for your pets as well. What to think about with building the kit for your pets, your animals, and yourself. And all this stuff we have in the back corner. And please come find me after this and we can really talk about specifics if you have questions directed toward your situation, and I'd love to expound on that as well. So that's all I have right now. So thank you very much.
When we were arranging this, I said I thought it was really important to take care of pets. We haven't really talked about it in the past too much, but it's a very critical need. I don't know of any person in Sun City that has a pet that will leave them. Spouses are optional, but they won't leave the pet. So if that's the fact, then we need to start talking about it and figuring out how we're going to deal with it. But I have something I would like every one of you to consider to try and do, and that is to make one decision. Are you going to stay or are you going to go? And if you're going to go, at what level you're going to go. If you're going to go at a major category 3 or above, fine. That's your choice. But if you make that one decision, so many other things are going to be made for you, and you only have to go on that one track. Because it's very confusing about what you go, when you go, where you go. But if you're not going to go, you don't need to plan on which road you're going to use either. Right? Okay. So I had to make sure that I was talking on the right train here. But anyway, we'll go with the next one. Oh, the hospital. Oh, Mike Zimmerman, he is the emergency room nurse director of nursing. I'm sorry, I'll get it right. It's my advanced age, something some of you may know something about. But we appreciate it. Mike is a lot younger than me, so he really doesn't understand me. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning, everybody. As Chief said, my name is Michael Zimmerman, and I am the Emergency Services Director. But not just the Emergency Service Director, I'm also the Director of Preparedness Services for South Bay Hospital. There's kind of a theme that you hear already going around with our panel of experts here, and that is preparedness. And I just want to talk to you a little bit about that in regards to South Bay Hospital, your community's hospital. A lot of people in times of disaster, and I don't want to isolate just to hurricanes, but hurricanes are the more common. They're a little slower moving, we get a little more advanced notice, so people tend to try to prepare, and in doing so, they come to the emergency room, which is fine. We are open 24 hours, 7 days a week, and we are prepared to take care of your emergencies. But I want to dispel a couple of things that we've noticed over the years, and I've been doing emergency management for about 25 years as well as healthcare. So lessons learned over the years. And one of the things that people tend to do is they show up to the hospital expecting to take shelter. South Bay Hospital actually has one of the area's most comprehensive emergency management plans. We are a network of HCA. We're actually a subsidiary of HCA Hospitals, which is one of the nation's largest healthcare companies. With that, we are afforded their resources as well. Their emergency management and preparedness services based out of Nashville, Tennessee, have resources beyond resources. So that's a great thing for our community because as being an HCA parent company, we have access to all those resources. We have transfer agreements, so in the event that you are at our hospital in the time of a disaster, whether it be announced or are preparing for a disaster, we have means to transfer patients out throughout the United States. We have transfer agreements with large aviation companies as well as ground transport companies, and these are very robust. As an acute care hospital, though, our primary focus are dedicated to our patients that are in our hospital and our staff caring for those patients. South Bay Hospital is not a shelter. It is not designed to be a shelter, nor will it be operating as a shelter. So what does that mean to you? That means, well, if you have an emergency, certainly you can come see us. We're going to take care of that emergency. But our goal is going to be either to get you the treatment you need and get you out of the hospital quickly, or get you transferred to an area that is safe. Our hospital does lock down. It is a fortified hospital, so actually it's a very good position. It's above sea level. It has reinforcements to weather a storm, and actually our parent company for our division, West Florida, actually comes to our hospital to shack up and to operate as an emergency operations center. So that's a pretty good feeling, knowing that we have that strength of a hospital in our community. But again, the goal is to be prepared for this. So people that are anticipating a storm coming, the at-risk community, hospital homebound patients, people that receive home health care, these people need to prepare ahead of time. Blue skies, the time is now, not when a storm is coming or when a threat is approaching. You need to make arrangements with your providers, your healthcare providers, your doctors, your home healthcare agencies. If you're oxygen dependent, make sure you have these discussions. Home health agencies should be having a conversation with you before a storm, during the blue skies, so that they have a plan in place. What is your plan? As Chief said, what is your plan? Is it to stay or is it to go? And if it's to go, where are you going? If it's to stay, how are you going to be made safe? So your home health agency or your medical doctors should have a plan in place, a care plan for you to make sure that you have the right medications. You should have a substantial supply, so if you do need to go to a shelter, you'll have those resources, as Hillsborough County Emergency Management said. Oxygen, again, is that shelter equipped to take oxygen if you have a concentrator? And if not, then we need to find out how we're going to take care of you. And that may mean, in certain cases, you do get admitted to the hospital. If you're a high risk or a very critical patient, you may be directed to come to the hospital. The biggest thing is get registered with a special needs registry. There are special needs shelters that are designed to take care of people that have special needs. Make sure you do that before the storm comes. I can't emphasize that enough. Get on the registry now if necessary. Don't wait until the last minute and say, oh, that's right, they said I need to get on the registry. That is the worst time because, again, it's going to be very difficult to manage you. We want to make sure that you're safe. We want to make sure that we're prepared in the best case scenario to take care of the needs of this community. If, in some circumstances, patients that are expecting, well, I know that this specific community may not have many. You may have friends, you may have family, or there may be people from outside the area to our south, the Parish and Ellington area, Waimama, and so on. Make sure that if that is the case, that we have a plan for you as well, because they may ask in the event that you are expecting or your friend or family is expecting, that they make sure that you get to a special needs shelter or a hospital prior to a storm's event, because barometric pressure does have some effects on the expecting females. So with that, like I said, biggest thing is we are open for you 24 hours, 7 days a week, blue skies or gray skies. But again, I just want to make sure that you stay prepared, and we're there if you need us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Next one is Julie Floyd with Samaritan Services.
Good morning, everyone. I am with Samaritan, and as most of you know, a big piece of what we do is transportation. So 1 to 2 days prior to a pending storm, all our out-of-town cars will be brought back here. We will cancel all the medical appointments 1 to 2 days prior to a storm. And that way, all of our 8 cars will be used to help people here in town. We will be taking people to the bank, to the grocery store, to the pharmacy, but we won't be taking people to the hairdresser. So I know some of you ladies think that's a priority, but that will not be a priority for us. And we will be in contact with the emergency squad if we lose power, because we do have one of the radios they were referring to. And as soon as the roads are safe for us to be back out on, once we have stopped our services, then we will find out where we can go. If we have lost power, obviously we won't be taking people to the grocery store because they won't have power either. We will be available to help any way that we can here in the community. And prior to the storm, one of the things also, other than the shopping, would be if somebody did not want to stay alone and they had a friend here in the community, we would be more than happy to drive them to their friend's house in the community so they don't have to be alone during the storm. The other thing that we are involved with here in town is the Meals on Wheels program. And as you did hear, the hospital will be closing down, so they won't be providing the meals for our program. So probably 1 day prior to the storm, we will stop delivering the meals. And we won't start back up again until the hospital can prepare the meals and the roads are safe for our people who deliver the meals. Now, the Women's Club here in Sun City Center is part of our partnership with the Meals on Wheels, and they will be calling all the clients who do receive Meals on Wheels during that time frame to find out what their needs might be. If, do we need to get water for them or some emergency provisions? And again, the Women's Club will be the ones making those phone calls. And if there's any questions at all afterwards, please join us at our table over there, and we'll be more than happy to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
The next one would be David Braxton from Hillsborough Public Works. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning, all. Glad to see you this morning. My name again is David Braxton. I work for Hillsborough County Public Works. I'm here representing today Public Utilities, which is also known now as Water Resources Department, and Public Works. We are part of ESF3, which is an emergency support function, actually, number 3. Next slide, please. A whole lot of numbers here. I just want to hit the highlights for Public Utilities of what they do. 67 million gallons of water is processed each day in Hillsborough County through 4 regional water treatment plants, and they have 192,000 connections to their water system. Also on the wastewater side, they have 5 regional treatment plants that are processing 43 million gallons per day of wastewater. And they maintain over 2,200 miles of sewer lines each. Go to the next slide, please. We'll talk a little bit about Public Works. Public Works Department, we provide safe and efficient transportation. We maintain roads, bridges, traffic signals, and street signs. We also maintain the stormwater systems and provide mosquito management services. A little bit as we move on, this is Public Works by the numbers. Again, I won't bore you too much with the numbers, but you see that we maintain over 7,300 lane miles. 560 traffic signals, almost 150,000 traffic signs. And our stormwater system, it's over 2,500 miles of ditches, pipes, and drainage channels. So that's a lot of work to do. As we respond during emergencies, go to the next slide, please. During activation, all of our employees, our critical employees, are pre-staged at designated sheltering sites throughout the county so that they're kept safe and ready to hit the ground running as soon as we get the all clear from the Emergency Operations Center. Once the EOC does get that all clear, our primary focus is on supporting Hillsborough County Fire Rescue with tactical search and rescue missions. Public Works provides heavy equipment, the operators for that equipment, and also large vehicles to traverse flooded areas. Other things that we do, I'm sorry, back it up. Other things we do is debris management. That is actually managed by our Solid Waste Management Division, which is now under Water Resources, but they provide the collection and ultimate disposal of all storm-generated debris. That's done through county forces and contracted employees. Our push routes, as soon as we get the all clear, we'll begin clearing the roadways. We have a predefined network of roads that need to be cleared based on priority as to where that entail critical facilities. Wherever we have what we deem critical facilities, such as hospitals, nursing homes, those types of places, high priority places, our routes are designed to clear those first. And of course, our wastewater management, Water Resources are going to focus on continuing their operations and providing safe drinking water and wastewater treatments. Okay, with that, the final slide I'll point out to you is down actually on Rodine Road, just east of 301. If you've been by there lately, you may have noticed there's a lot of construction there. We are opening our new operational facility there. It'll serve Sun City Center and the rest of southern Hillsborough County. In that building, it's a hardened building. It's going to be storm ready this hurricane season. And that's where we'll house both our Water Resources, Public Works, and Fleet Management personnel. So that's coming this year. Thank you for your time. That's a quick snapshot. I will be sitting with Jerry in the far corner after this presentation if you'd like to drop by and speak with us. Thank you very much.
Next we have Kelly Carnegie from Tico.
Hi, good morning everybody. I'm here with Tico, so we're Tampa Electric and People's Gas. I'm also a volunteer here at the squad too, so I'm here on the weekends sometimes, so this is a special community for me. I'm also here with one of our interns, Cameron, so just come up and see us in this corner once I'm done if you have any questions or once the presentation's done. I'm here to talk about safety. We prioritize restoration safely. That's our top priority in Tico, is always safety, and we want to echo this with our customers as well. So I'll talk about some things to do if you run into down power lines, things like that, electricity and gas safety. So first off, if you see down power lines, stay away from them. Don't go near down power lines. You can call 911 and report them. I know Tyler talked about floodwaters and driving through them. Another hazard in water that you may not see are down power lines that are energized. So you don't want to go in water for that reason either. So stay out of floodwaters. Don't go near down power lines. Make sure you call 911. And we always hear about generator safety, but every storm that happens, someone's dying because they're using a generator in their home or in their garage. So make sure if you use backup generation that you do it safely. Keep it outdoors, away from an air conditioner or any other way to let that carbon monoxide back into your house. And don't backfeed it to the power lines, because our electric linemen that are out trying to restore power can actually be hurt. They're trained to check for this, but if they're working on a circuit that's from the substation out, there's no electricity, and then they get towards your house and then the line's energized, that could be a nice surprise for them. So don't backfeed it into the power system, please. and reporting an outage. I was ignorant to this. I've only been with Tico for 3 years, and I work in the emergency management side, so I'm not an engineer or lineman or anything like that. But I didn't know that they don't know when my power's out. So I don't know if you all knew that. We don't know that your power's out. It might come in when we find out a whole circuit's out, but if you have a power outage, you need to report it. It will get fixed quickly and more efficiently if you do so. And you can report it by logging into your account online. You can call us. You can even text us now. And if you want any of this information, just come see me and I'll get it to you. So natural gas, we do the same thing, but natural gas, a gas leak is a top priority. So if you smell gas in your home, and I don't know if there's gas in this community. Do you guys have natural gas? All right, awesome. So do you know that natural gas smell, it's not really the gas, it's the mercaptan we put in it, because gas doesn't have a smell. You know that odor, rotten egg kind of smell? If you smell that, you need to open your windows and call in and report this, but make sure you do it once you get outside of your home. Don't activate any electricity, because even a cell phone can spark and ignite gas. So just make sure if it's a really bad smell, just get out immediately. Don't even open your windows, call 911. But if you smell it a little like, hey, is that gas I smell? Open your windows, go outside, go to a neighbor's, or call on the cell phone once you leave your home, and don't hit any light switches, just leave, okay? And then report that to us. So if you evacuate your home or business, you don't want to shut your natural gas off. I know a lot of people think, oh, I'm gonna shut my gas off, it'll be preventative, but it actually causes a lot of different hazards and can take longer to get repaired. So keep your gas on. Don't turn off the valve to the house, but you can turn off appliance valves. So if you know like your stove has gas and you know where their valve is a few feet away, you can shut those off. Make sure the burners are off. I mean, they should be all the time when you're not cooking, but make sure everything like that's off too. And that's pretty much it. If you have any individual questions, come see me afterwards. I'd be happy to talk to you, okay? Thanks.
We have Tim Prod from Sun City Center Security Patrol, and while you think that, because they do not secure and do patrols in here, they do the patrols in the community. They also do a lot of other endeavors that help us as a community. They do helping if we have somebody with Alzheimer's, somebody gets lost on the silver alert, they do activate people to go out. They check the business centers at night. They will also bring people home, even into Kings Point, from the hospital if they're discharged at night, because there's not much running around here. So they will do that too. So there is a service that they do provide in this community. So,
good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Tim Broad. I'm a Deputy Chief at the Security Patrol. The role of the patrol is to observe and report. We don't have the skills of our friends in the hospital, the emergency squad, or the sheriff's department, but we are there to alert of situations. We spoke at the beginning this morning about pre-planning. One of the services that is provided to everyone in Sun City Centre is a house watch card registration. This is for those who are away from Sun City Centre. If you're going away for a few days, particularly in the hurricane season, or you're a snowbird who's not around in parts of the season, it is wise to register your address, where you are, how to contact you, how anyone has a key to get into your facility and has your trust to be able to do it. We cannot break in. We need to ask the sheriff's department or the emergency squad to do that. But if you give us those cards before you go away, then that means if there is damage to your house and you're not here, you can be called in or you can get alerted there is a problem and how you wish it to be dealt with. So that's a valuable tool in your pre-planning gear. We do not, however, have the facilities in the security patrol to help removing trees or putting people. The only point I would make, if we give rides to people, we are not insured to carry non-ambulatory passengers. You have to be able to walk by yourself to get into one of our cars. But we are there to help. We try to help. We do have, as they said earlier, the Silver Alert. We even look out for dogs. If we even have a chip reader provided by the Pet Society, so as we can check if an animal has been chipped and who it belongs to. But that is our role. Observation and reporting is our main thing. Thank you for your time.
Next will be Ryan Pedigo, and this is under Department of Health for shelters, but it's special needs shelters. Right? You're going to speak. Okay. I did not know that.
Hi everyone, my name is Allison Steesaw and I'm in place of Ryan today. I'm with the Florida Department of Health in Hillsborough County, and I'm the coordinator for the Hillsborough County Special Needs Shelter Program. So is anyone here already registered with the Special Needs Shelter Program? No? Has anyone been to a special needs shelter, like with the past hurricane, Irma? No? Okay, so fresh new faces. So the special needs shelters are for individuals in the community who have medical needs or conditions that can't be met at a general population shelter. So these include things like if you are oxygen dependent, if you require a medical device that requires the electricity, or if you need medical monitoring or assistance. Someone like that would go to a special needs shelter. When I'm explaining this to someone over the phone, what I generally like to say to them is special needs shelters are for someone who wouldn't do well at a general population shelter. So for example, my grandmother is turning 80 years old this year, and she's pretty frail and elderly. I know a general population shelter, you go in there, there's not going to be any cots. You're basically sleeping on the gymnasium floor. And thinking of my elderly, frail grandmother, thinking of her sleeping on the floor, I know she wouldn't come out of that being in the same condition as she was when she went in. So when you're thinking about if you should go to a special needs shelter, just think about if you would do well in the sort of environment that a general population shelter has. We have 3 special needs shelters in Hillsborough County. We have the USF Yingling Center, Riverview High School, and Irwin Technical Center. So they open depending on the severity of an event. So like with Hurricane Irma, that was a mass evacuation, we opened all 3 shelters. If it might be a smaller event, we may open 1 or we may open 2. It just depends on the severity. Through the program, you can sign up for transportation assistance. To register, we have an evaluation form. The evaluation form asks for personal general information like your first name, last name, address, phone number, and then towards the middle and the bottom it asks for information about your medical problems and your medical needs. So if you want to register for the program and you're filling out the evaluation form, we just ask that you be as detailed as possible when you're for the medical problems and the medical needs section, because we use that information to determine your eligibility for the program. So the special needs shelters, like our friends at the EOC had mentioned, you want to think of them more as a lifeboat than a cruise ship. You're in an open area with a bunch of other people. They have medical needs. I know after Hurricane Irma, we had people call in because they heard things or smelled things that they were not comfortable with. You know, we have people who are helping people change diapers, helping clean people up. So just being mentally prepared of what it's going to be like to stay in a special needs shelter for 2 to 5 days is really, really important. So you want to think as any shelter as more of a lifeboat than a cruise ship. We do have evaluation forms with us today. We are over there. We have a lot of other information that you could use about the special needs shelter program. So if you have any questions, feel free to visit us right over there. Thank you.
And my apologies, she does look a lot different than Ryan. The next one we're going to have is an insurance person to come up and tell you something about what you need to look for before the storm, after. Greg Waltz, and I want you to know he came over from West Palm Beach this morning, I think, right? Oh, okay. He came from West Palm Beach. It's a long ways to come over for this, but he felt it was. And Rob Mons, which is from AMCAP, sitting over at the table over there. He's the carrier for the insurance policy on Kings Point. And they've always been very big advocates for not only the insurance, but being prepared for it in here. And there is a big difference between having an event and trying to prepare to avoid a real calamity. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. So what do hospital gowns and insurance policies have in common? That's correct. You're never covered for as much as you think you are. So we're going to try to give you some tips so that this doesn't happen to you. What do you think your most important asset is? Well, if you were like most Americans, your most important asset is your home. So it's very important that you evaluate or take a look at your homeowner's insurance policy to make sure that you have the proper coverages. As Tyler mentioned earlier from NOAA, that Florida is increasingly exposed because of climate change, and things are only predicted to get worse. We're exposed to rising sea levels, increased rainfall and flooding, and the intensity of hurricanes increasing. And we've really seen that the last few years. So it's important that whether you live in a single family home, which maybe some of you do, or probably most of you live in a condominium association, that your home policy has the correct amount of insurance so that in the event of a loss, you would recoup the full replacement value. Because remember, these policies are all written on a replacement cost value. That means the insurance company is going to give you new stuff for all your old stuff that was damaged or destroyed. So it's important that you evaluate what you have in your home and put the value of it in $2020. You know, forget that that couch is 20 years old and you paid $200 for it 20 years ago. You know, a new one might cost you $2,000. So you should meet with your agent to go over your home policy and review it every single year. 1 in 20 of you in this room will have an insurance claim this year. That's the national average. And the most severe claims are from hurricanes, wind, and hail here in this country. So some of the other things that you can do is, in the event of a claim, you should not wait for an adjuster to necessarily visit your property to tell you what the loss is. You have an obligation and you have a right under your homeowner's policies to protect the property from further damage, and the insurance company will reimburse you for what you did to protect it. For example, if the windows are all blown out, you have the right to hire somebody to come and board those windows up. If your roof is damaged and it's leaking, you have the right to have somebody tarp it so it stops leaking, and the insurance companies will reimburse you for those expenses that you incur. The other thing that you should do is take an inventory, especially, hurricane season, just a few months away. Take an inventory of everything that you have. You all have iPhones or phones with cameras. So it's important that you do that, because remember, if your house is not there, you might forget some of the things that you have. So you possibly wouldn't be collecting the full value of the loss because you've overlooked things. The other important thing is you should get a relationship with your agent. Get to know your agent. You know, go visit him, look at your policy. But also remember, in the event of a catastrophic loss in this area, your agent may not be reachable. His office may be damaged, his home may be damaged. So be sure and get all of these insurance companies, these homeowners insurance companies have 800 numbers. Be sure and get the phone number of your insurance company, so if you need to call them direct and bypass the agent because he's unreachable, you can do that. That's very important. That would save critical time in getting an adjuster out to look at your property. So these are just some ideas that we would encourage you to incorporate. And like I said, as we approach June 1st, now is the perfect time to start evaluating your own personal homeowner's policy. Thank you.
And we have the Kings Point Radio Club, Dick Bishop.
Thank you, Mike. I'm Dick Bishop from the Kings Point Amateur Radio Club. We have two radio clubs in the community. During a disaster and disaster planning, communication is an extremely important part. So you need to plan ahead how you communicate. Let's assume you don't have a telephone. All the calls that you would normally make just off the cuff, you can't make them. So I want to tell you how Kings Point residents can get emergency calls out in a case where we don't have telephones. The first one I want to tell you about is a radio system that's sponsored by the Emergency Squad. Emergency Squad has developed a program and placed about 25 radios around the community. 3 of them are right here in Kings Point. You should know as residents that the Vesta security group have 2 of the radios, and they probably will place them at the gates in an emergency. If there's no phone service, if you could get to one of the gates, you can get an emergency call to the squad or to the sheriff or to the 911 operator. Also, First Services has a radio, and although they're not 24/7, when they're open, they will have a radio that can also call directly to the squad. If you can get to the squad, you can also get to any of our other emergency services. But these radios, the 3 in Kings Point, are primarily for medical emergency only, not for flooded basements, which we don't have, or pets getting out, or roof damage and so forth. The second one I want to tell you about involves these small radios. This is something that our Kings Point Amateur Radio Club is sponsoring. We have developed a plan to put listening stations throughout the community. These small radios, $15, $20, they're very inexpensive, will reach about 1.5 miles in our community. If you have one of these radios, you can own them yourself, you can call one of our listening stations. They will relay to you to the emergency squad for an ambulance or medical services. They also will relay to the dispatcher of 911 and the PLC in Tampa. So with these radios, the community has a way of making some emergency calls during an emergency. Anyway, I'd like to be sure you're aware of that. These radios have no license requirements. They do work through our radio club. So if you're interested in this program, drop by the radio club table. You can buy them from Amazon too, but if you work through us, we have a registered database, so we'll know where you're located. So when you do make a call, we'll be able to cross-reference your address. Our radio club also is always looking for members. We encourage people to get a license. We teach classes. We give the exams. And in an emergency, no phone service, radio really is a backbone of our communication. Thank you.
And we have Sun City Radio, Bert.
Thank you, Mike, for that thunderous round of difference coming from my colleagues over at I'd like a show of hands, please. And be honest with me, prior to you walking in that door to come and sit down in here, how many of you were unaware that Sun City Center has its own FM radio station?
There.
Good. That is probably not what I expected. I expected to see a lot more hands go up. Well, I want to tell you who we are and who we aren't, and what we do and what we do not do. Now, I'd like to tell you that we are the same as WFLA, that we have a news staff, a meteorological staff, a full complement of engineers designed to bring you all of the information right away. I'd like to tell you that, but I can't. We're a volunteer group of people, and we do the best we can with what we have. When an emergency hits, we have the same things that the larger stations do, in that we have an emergency access system that will mercilessly come in and knock us off the air and bring you emergency information just like any other station would. But that's activated outside and outside of our control. During the time of an emergency, we will do our level best to bring you as much information as we possibly can. We're a member of the Weather Ready Nation. I'm on NOAA's mailing list, so if NOAA and the Weather Service decides that there's enough information that they're going to send out an alert, I get it. We're not going to chicken little the thing and tell you the sky is falling if it's not. So if we get information, we're going to try and do our level best to bring it to you. I think the value of Sun Radio is more of beforehand. Starting sometime in May, every couple of hours, we're going to bring you emergency preparedness information about hurricanes and things like that. And that's going to go on all day long. We're live on the air 3 mornings a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And I'll talk about Wednesday and Friday in a moment. But we're live on the air from 9 to 11 on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday right now. And if there's anything that we can tell you, we'll be happy to tell you. Jeff Mary is one of my best friends in this community. You'd be surprised how fast I can get in touch with Jeff. And vice versa. If he tells me that there's something we need to tell you, we're happy to do it, okay? And we will bring you the hurricane information. We also have a program on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 2:30 called Connecting with Kim. Kim Droege is with us today, and she'll tell you about that. It's emergency services. It's any kind of services that help you live a better life here in Sun City Center. And finally, we are very, very honored to have a program called Someone You Should Know. And Someone You Should Know is hosted by Robin Watt and the Emergency Squad. So we find out what's going on there. That said, what we are not is we are not able to, bring you all of the information that a WFLA would be able to bring you. Our emergency power only lasts for about 3 hours, and if we're knocked off the air, we want you to go someplace else. But we would encourage you to listen to 96.3 for information. We have recently positioned ourselves as more of an information source, and because we know, if you want to go listen to music, go to Pandora. Knock yourself out. We're going to bring music to you and information as we have it. But that's basically who it is. Now the cheap, shameless plug. We could use some volunteers. If you're interested, if you think you'd like to be on the air, if you want to help work with some, what would you say, Jeff, routinely crazy people? Yeah, that would do it, okay. But we have a good time doing it. And our motto lately is you can't make this stuff up. And so we're doing that. Information is available right here next to this main dais here. We're right over there. My adorable young bride, Lisa, who co-hosts with me on Thursday morning, is there. And on Thursdays from 9 to 11 for Cheap Shameless Plug, I'm on the air, and I do my level best to bring as much community information to this community
as I possibly can. So those of you who have any questions, stop by and see us. We'd love it if you listen. We understand during an emergency if you don't. Thank you.
Okay, just a couple other things to tell you. A couple of people that are not going to present, which is Service Master. They provided and they have made 400 copies of these booklets. You ought to get, there's a lot of information. Hours upon hours have been spent putting this together for you, giving you a lot of the resources. I think it's 12 pages when you talk front and back. But those booklets are kind of provided by them. They're over there. And the other one is CERT, which is your Community Emergency Response Team. These are people that in an emergency will come out, help direct traffic, do other kind of scenarios in which we would need help within this community. And they're over there. They're the ones in the red shirt, and they have a backpack, which they usually have when they're deployed, having all kinds of different items into it. We wanted to acknowledge that they are here. Also, the emergency squad. I'll tell you what we're going to do. It's pretty simple, really. We're going to divide up our assets, and we're even going to move one of the ambulances out of this area. We're going to move it probably about 40 miles away from here. And the reason is we are fully covered by insurance, but that's not going to do us a whole lot of good to have a check in hand if we don't have an ambulance. And this is not something you can go to Furman Chevrolet and get a new vehicle. So our best way to protect and to try and keep our assets is to separate them a little bit to make sure that we try and have something in this community. If something comes in the size of Michael, well, we may be having some real issues. But we're going to work and endeavor to try and solve that problem for you. And I think with that, who has the tickets?
Over here, Mike.
You got them all? Okay, now comes I know what you guys are all waiting for. Sure. Well, is it of one of the individual presenters?
Well, it's an in general question. In an emergency, when we have high sustained winds and gusts, are the front gates going to be open or manned? The back gate, the south gate, will that be open and manned?
Yeah.
And what do we do? Are we just, they close the gate?
They're asking on
get in and
when the
out?
gates get
How does
closed.
that work?
Don? Are you here?
I'm here.
Can you answer that?
Yeah, do you want me to come up to the mic?
Sure.
Restate the question.
She wants to know in an emergency situation, what are going to be the standards with the gates, when they're going to be open, and when they're going to be closed. Did I accurately?
Those sustained gusts, hurricane. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, I think I heard that question. We're going to be very similar to the other emergency teams at 35 miles per hour. The gates, the front and the back gates will be closed. As soon as it's safe to do so, we'll open up the front gates first. The back gates will be as we get people coming back on the team and they're available, then we'll open up the back. But the front gates will be the priority, 35 miles per hour.
If the gate is closed, then how will emergency vehicles get in?
No,
and out?
not closed.
Okay, they're not physically closed, they just won't be manned at 35 miles per hour. So emergency vehicles will be able to come in as soon as they're able to do so, they just will not be manned.
Okay. Well, we're going to be giving out these radios here, courtesy of the Men's Club and Helping Hands have gotten together and bought some of these. They're small, but we could have given you one that was 40 years ago and it would have taken both of your hands to carry it. Now with everything else, they've gotten smaller. So it's pretty nice. We've also put a tag on the front to tell you what the radio station call sign is, call numbers are, so that if you have to activate this. Batteries not included. So you do have to put batteries in it, and they're not being provided to you. Okay, the first ticket? Okay, we're going to be pulling out several of these tickets, so just look at your what I'm going to ask you to do is give me 5 minutes after this, because I got to get them to the table so they can give you your radios, okay? Okay, 217-6030.